Welcome to Biocanic's Health Intelligence Exchange community, where leading practitioners in integrative health approaches will discuss how they solve the most challenging and common health issues. These regular Q&A discussions are designed to take a deep dive into case studies and integrative approaches in order to elevate the collective knowledge of both experienced and new practitioners alike. Biocanic's Health Intelligence Exchange, your community for functional medicine.
Welcome to the Health Intelligence Exchange, everyone. I'm Lady Gray of Biocanic, and today our guests are Whitney Morgan and Paula Reed from FDN. We're going to be discussing FDN advanced courses and how you can advance your training. Make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss us live. Feel free to start posting any questions in the comments for us to answer during our live Q&A portion. And if you are watching this as a replay, remember you can still post your questions and we'll make sure we get those over to Whitney and Paula as soon as we can. All right, today we are joined by these two amazing women, these two practitioners who took everything they learned inside of the FDN certification and used it to build something bigger. Not just thriving practices of their own, but advanced courses that are now helping other FDN practitioners go deeper in their clinical work. So let's start with you, Miss Whitney. Whitney is a licensed acupuncturist and functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. She specializes in thyroid and autoimmune health and has built her practice around helping clients with Hashimoto's and hypothyroid symptoms uncover the root causes that conventional medicine keeps missing. Paula is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and certified midlife specialist who focuses on hormone and gut health for peri and menopausal men and women. Well, perimenopausal men, that sounded funny, didn't it?
A little bit.
Okay, perimenopausal and menopausal women and some men. How about that? Is that better?
Yes.
All right. Together, Whitney and Paula have taken their combined clinical expertise and certified courses for FDN that give practitioners the tools to go beyond foundational curriculum and practice at the highest level. Okay, ladies, let's jump right in. Whitney and Paula, welcome to the show today. I'm so excited to have both of you.
Thanks. We're excited to be here. Thank you.
All right. So can you walk us through what transition looked like when you went from an FDN practitioner to becoming a course creator? Let's go on a tangent, Whitney.
Yeah, so it didn't feel like a huge transition for me. I have an education background, so I was a teacher in a former life. And it wasn't like it was an idea that came to me when I started doing that for FDN. They came to me, they had some needs. They were looking for those needs to be filled. And so some synergy just made sense. Yeah. And that's how it started. Yeah. Pretty effortless transition.
Yeah, I love that. How about you, Paula?
Mine was just a little bit different. You know, I didn't just transition from FDN practitioner to a course creator, but both Whitney and I are also clinical advisors for FDN. So that's how my transition started as a clinical advisor. And I know Whitney will agree with this. We're educating other FDN practitioners on a daily basis in CA sessions. So it's a little more targeted during those sessions, but when you start meeting with other practitioners on a regular basis, you realize where some of the need is. And in my case, I went to FDN with an idea twice to say, I think we need a little more education in these areas for these folks who are working with people in this particular niche. So that's how it happened for me.
I love that a lot, because I think one of the things that people believe is that if once I get certified or once I finish school and I become a practitioner, I should know everything. Right. And then they go into practice and they're like, oh my gosh, I missed this. I missed this. So what you're doing is really important. So what are some of the things that you really got excited about, each of you, when you were thinking about how you could educate other practitioners? What is that kind of passion that comes from you that's like, yes, this is something I really love doing?
Well, for me, and I'd love to hear Paula's thoughts too. For me, the most exciting thing is coaching other practitioners how to think critically through a case. It's not like, oh, I want to, just educate people about thyroid or autoimmune stuff, even though I love doing that. It's more about meeting the client where they are, and then how you think through the client's trajectory, the client's history, how they came to where they are, and then how you connect all the dots from the labs that you run, and how you identify the questions that are still remaining or the new questions that emerge from the data. You know, there's a whole just critical thinking skill set that can't get taught in some of these advanced courses, or even in FDN certification at a granular level, because there's just so much theory to teach, right? So it's focused on teaching people how to think about that theory. And that's where clinical advising sessions, I think, really shine.
That's amazing. And then how about you, Paula? What's kind of your passion part of this? Or like, what's exciting? What she's like, all of that and more, probably.
Yeah, I mean, ditto to absolutely everything that Whitney said. And again, with what I do in my practice, I do work primarily with midlife women and beyond, and then sometimes their partners as well. But I found this huge gap of, you know, in the certification course, you learn the basics about hormones, for example, but there are a lot of midlife women suffering with various symptoms. And the trend that I was seeing in these clinical advising sessions, working with these other practitioners, is they needed to go deeper in not only connecting the dots, like what Whitney was saying, but how do I really help these people get more help? Because some of it is honestly outside of the scope of practice of a non-licensed practitioner. So I wanted to create a course, for example, that taught the basics of what we do as FDN practitioners, because it's extremely critical in working with these women. But then how do we also move beyond that? And how do we know how to refer out and collaborate with licensed providers? Because there's room for everyone at the table.
Oh, I love that. I love what both of you said. Whitney, your point about critical thinking, it's not just about looking at a lab result and then having a protocol. You have to take all of the pieces together, right? And then they get through the protocol ways, and then you're like, oh, something else popped up, or what else? And like teaching that skill to look at and go, oh, but yeah, now they feel better, but now are they not pooping, or what else has happened, you know? Right. So that's amazing. I think that's a brilliant thing that most people don't think about often. I mean, most of us should have critical thinking skills. But then Paula, to your point, there's room for everyone. I think that's a big piece that we really need to be excited about, because as a practitioner, we forget that we don't have to do it all on our own. And that's not actually the best way to serve our clients and patients, by thinking that we're the only one. And so having that collaborative model is really important, and going deeper, learning more. I think that's really important. So that's pretty amazing. Now, Whitney, your clinical focus is heavily rooted in the thyroid autoimmune health, and you hold a licensed acupuncturist certification along with your FDN credential. How does the depth of specialization shape the way you teach advanced concepts to other practitioners?
Well, in clinical advising sessions, I'm really comfortable blending both mindsets, but Chinese medicine is a different language. It really is. So I have to be very careful about how much I infuse that education process with Chinese medicine concepts, because we can jump down rabbit holes with that. But there are enough natural integrations to draw from that medicine. But also, I have to be cognizant of keeping somewhat of a separation, because I am licensed, but most of the practitioners I'm mentoring are not. So I have to be careful, because I don't want to provide them with information that then they might go out of scope of practice, particularly in Chinese medicine. But it does influence the way that I view a case, because the Eastern mindset and the Western mindset, there's a lot of overlap. But at the same time, there's all this synergy and enhancement that can occur when you're looking at a case. So that's really what I try and bring, without having to explain Chinese medicine concepts directly.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. And then Paula, you're working exclusively, or most exclusively or extensively with the peri and menopausal women, not perimenopausal, using Dutch test and GI map testing as your core tools. How did your client work in hormone and gut health inform the curriculum you've built into the advanced courses?
Great question. A lot of it actually comes back to kind of my life before FDN, honestly. I had a great opportunity to work in an integrative medical practice where I was the wellness provider working alongside licensed providers. So they ran some of the labs, I ran some of the labs, but all of the patients actually worked with me on all the diet, lifestyle, and how to integrate everything. So it wasn't just getting lab data and a protocol, but the coaching piece of it as well. So I learned so much in that practice. And then after doing the FDN certification course, again, a year later, when I started working as a clinical advisor, I just realized there's a lot more information that can be shared with practitioners that want to go a little bit deeper. So it was using a combination of a couple of mentorships that I've done, specifically working in like hormone replacement therapy, along with the all of the things that I learned working in the medical practice, because it was a practice that specialized in women's health, sexual medicine, hormone replacement therapy, gynecology. So it all came together there. And I just felt like there was so much more that I could share with FDN practitioners, but still help them stay within scope of practice.
Oh, that's wonderful. I thank you for both of you for the work you're doing to help educate these practitioners, right? Because we all need to learn more and be empowered to serve our clients and patients better. All right. So for an FDNP who has been certified for a year or two and is seeing clients, how do you know if they're ready for an advanced training course? And what does that next level of clinical thinking actually look like in practice? I know. Okay, we'll start with number one. How do we know when somebody's ready for an advanced course?
For me, I feel like once they've mastered the fundamentals, because we always want to start with the foundations, right? So once someone has worked with enough people that they have mastered the fundamentals and the foundational areas of investigation, they're usually asking people like Whitney and I and clinical advisors in these sessions, what more can I learn? I feel like there's just other pieces that I would like to learn. It's usually, I feel, the FDN practitioner literally telling us, I think I'm ready to learn more. Mm-hmm. What are some of the best courses that I can take based on, who I'm working with or what it is I'm trying to find out.
Okay, I love it. And that I think, and I love that you brought it back to the foundations, right? Because we have to understand too, foundations are important no matter what your specialty is. And getting those, down first can be really very supportive for anything you're working on. So I'm in practice, I have clients, I'm learning, I'm like, I think I want to learn a little more. Now, how do I take that critical thinking, and tell me a little bit more about that, Whitney, and put it into my practice as I go into the advanced course?
Sure. Well, first, I just want to follow up on something Paula said, because I think that it's important too that when people get out, they get certified, even if they've been working with clients for a year or so. What I see in clinical advising sessions is most FDNs have a sense of, I don't know enough, I'm not good enough. And so they might jump too soon into an advanced course. So I would say, make sure that the need is really there, that you have mastered those fundamentals, because what naturally happens is you start to realize that, I am super proficient with all of these tools and I'm ready for more. So that sense of proficiency is really important before you really start ingesting more material, I think. And then, of course, wherever their natural niche is, wherever they feel drawn, that tends to be, I think Paula would agree, that tends to be how we try and match them with, hey, these are the courses I think would be best for you based on where you are and the clients that you're working with. In terms of critical thinking skills, I think it comes down to the fundamentals. And what I find myself talking about with FDNs most is not so much the labs and the data, but let's go more fundamental than that. Let's really get a comprehensive sense of the client, where they are, not just their symptoms and their health history, but their lived experience and their support systems, their relationships, their mental emotional state, their sense of spirituality. All these things make a difference in terms of how you actually meet them where they are and are able to help them. And I think when you focus on the collaboration with the client, we spoke about collaborating with other professionals, but the relationship between the FDN practitioner and the client should also be collaborative. So there needs to be a real sense of support and trust and understanding. And when you really invest in that, that's where the critical thinking skills, I think, sprout from, right? That's the soil that the seeds get planted in, is when you have that really firm sense of who your client is.
Oh, that's brilliant. That was really beautifully said, Whitney. Because we often talk about, we all know what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how do we don't know how to pull it out. But when you spend time to really get to know the client you're working with, half the time they're actually telling you what they need.
Yes.
I was on a call last week. She goes, "Do I have to do food logging?" I don't think so. That wasn't part of what we were going to, so just listening and having those questions, I think that's really, really beautiful, because many times I see practitioners that want to learn more, and they take that knowledge is going to be better than remembering. Actually getting to know who I'm working with is going to help me with the right approach. That was beautiful. I love that. Oh, all right. Can you walk us through what some of the advanced courses actually cover? What are the specific clinical skills or lab interpretation frameworks that practitioners gain access to that they do not get just by doing the FDN course certification alone?
Wow, there's such a large menu.
It's a big one.
Yeah. Well, I of course I'm biased. The thyroid advanced course I think is pretty foundational, actually, because in the certification course, folks get a real good understanding of the HPA axis and also sex hormone balance and how those things are connected. But there is this kind of natural blind spot where the thyroid comes in, and there's such a close relationship between the stress physiology, the HPA axis, and thyroid function. They're like two parallel tracks. So if you don't have a thorough understanding, right, of how one spills over into the other, you have a natural blind spot. So I think that there are certain advanced courses that I would still consider as foundational. And I think Paula would probably agree with that. We have a great advanced blood chemistry course, which I consider very foundational, because so many clients will come to you with their labs from their doctor, right? And if you don't know what you're looking at, or if you don't know how to look at that lab report through a functional lens, then you're missing a really good opportunity. But there's so many topics in the advanced course menu. But I'd love to hear Paula's thoughts on that too.
Well, I agree with everything Whitney just said, obviously. And then I'll use one of the courses that I created as another example. Like she talked about the thyroid course being foundational, and it is. It's just not something covered extensively in the certification course. And it's the same with one of the courses I did on navigating hormone therapy. That is certainly not covered actual hormone therapy for women in the certification course, because it's meant to be foundational areas. And obviously not every woman is going to do hormone therapy or may not be a candidate for hormone therapy. So that's what that course is really talking about. What are the pros and cons, who may be a candidate, who may not be a candidate, and then how it integrates with our DRESS framework, and how important it is to not just look at the hormones, but all of the other foundational areas with it, patterns, things like that. There's an upcoming course, hopefully very soon, that is going to go more into like women and cardiovascular health. And it's not about memorizing lab markers or cutoff or even what optimal ranges are necessarily, but patterns, and patterns that matter in women. So it's just way more in depth than just saying, what are these hormone levels? Or, what does this blood chemistry sheet say? but what are the patterns that we're seeing based on all the information we're gathering? And then how do you think critically about what are the priorities? What are maybe phase 2? When is it time to actually refer to a licensed provider?
Yeah. Amazing. As you were started to talk and then you circled right back around to critical thinking, I was thinking, this sounds really amazing. Like looking for patterns and not just looking at lab tests, but looking at the whole picture so we can help someone on a deeper level. Now, what are, like, give me a couple. So we got thyroid, we've got advanced blood chemistry, we've got women and hormone replacement. What are a few of the other, like some of the most popular courses that you see a lot of practitioners wanting to learn more about?
I think advanced stress and hormones for sure, because it covers the Dutch lab in depth. And so a lot of practitioners transition to that test instead of saliva testing, especially like in a case like me. I'll just be honest, I use the Dutch, not saliva, because I want to see hormone metabolism pathways and detox pathways. So I know that's a really popular one. Gosh, there's so many. There's
neurotransmitters, another popular one, organic acids as well.
Gut and brain access, oxalate,
Okay, so we have a lot of courses to choose from.
Yes.
When you ladies and the other team you're creating these advanced courses, are they meant primarily for the FDN population? Can anyone else take these courses? How does that work?
Anyone can take the courses. Yes. They don't have to be FDN practitioners. We have nurses and nurse practitioners and even doctors who take some of these advanced courses.
Okay, that's brilliant to know, right? And then and at a nice price point, you're not having to go into a 2-year program to learn these things about, how to interpret the Dutch test and how to get some basics and in depth. That's brilliant, because I think that's the thing that holds a lot of people back as well, is like, okay, do I have to commit to another 2-year program to get some actual really critical thinking skills so I can move my practice forward?
So I will say that most of the advanced courses do kind of pull everything back to dress and the fundamentals that are in the course. So any outside practitioners, nurses, chiropractors who haven't done FDN, but they might take the course, they're going to get a little bit of the flavor of what FDN is about and some of that foundational, aesthetic. And it might actually draw them into like, oh, maybe I do want to take this 2-year course. Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I was thinking the same thing, because we often see a lot of licensed providers, they're working and they see this new functional medicine and all of these things, and they hear about these tests and then they're like, wait, I haven't been doing this kind of work with my own patient population. And so to learn that coaching piece and how to do those hidden stressors. Let's talk about hidden. What does hidden mean? I know I've seen that come up a lot with FDN. Yes, I am an FDN, so I know about this. But you tell me about it. Tell me about this. Tell me about the hidden stressors and how that's an important part of the FDN approach and methodology.
I didn't know this was going to be a test.
I
know. H stands for hormones, right, Paula?
Yes.
Yes. I is for immune. A, D, digestion, detoxification, something with energy and nervous system. Yes, there you go.
Yes, right. And I think that's so important to bring those back, those hidden stressors. And we're learning the foundations. And when you have those foundations, then you want to open up and go a little bit more deeper with these advanced courses. All right. So for each of you two ladies, building and selling courses is a completely different skill set from working with the clients. What did you learn about creating and marketing an educational product that you wished you'd known when you started?
I know one right off the bat is when you're estimating the time involved in doing course creation, double it.
Double it. Yes.
Especially if you're type A perfectionist like Whitney and I are, because you go back and refine and change and refine and second guess. So
yes. It takes more time than you think it's going to take. Definitely. And, but at the same time, you can't be perfect. You can't cover everything. So you also have to learn how to, yes, go back and refine, but also trim and let's keep it contained. I think Well, with Paula and myself, we created a business together after we both been involved in doing advanced courses for FDN, and of course as clinical advisors. And so I got to experience creating a course with Paula, which is way more fun than doing it on my own. I can tell you that. Because there is that synergy, right? And we complement each other. But I think that for us, really it's our experience in the clinical advising sessions where we figure out where, not really weaknesses, but where those blind spots are, where the needs are, even if they're unspoken needs, things that we can pick up on. Like we're seeing patterns, in the FDN population.
Yeah.
And we need to put voice to those patterns. So we've developed a few courses for FDN specifically that really focus on critical thinking across multiple different domains, whether it's, how to review intake forms and really think critically through all of the information you're getting from a client, or how you're thinking about building a protocol, or putting all the labs together, or choosing labs, or when to run a test. Those are the things that most practitioners struggle with the most, I think, is just the logistics of how do I take a client from point A to point B, right? And how do I make that a very user-friendly experience, a really supportive experience, and also be able to maintain, everything that needs to be maintained in my business.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. So when did the two of you start working together? Tell me about this evolution.
January of 22.
Okay.
I moved to Tucson. Okay. I was fangirling Whitney because she was a clinical advisor before I was. And, I took her advanced thyroid course even before I became a clinical advisor. And I just thought, this is one smart lady I'd really like to get to know. And when I moved to Tucson and I found out she was in Tucson, I asked if we could meet for coffee one day when we were out here checking on our home that was being built. What I thought would probably be a 1 hour conversation turned into 4 hours with my husband calling me saying, when are you going to come back to the hotel? And then when I moved out here, we had another little coffee appointment. Whitney showed me her favorite coffee spot downtown. We walked around for over an hour in the rain, I might add. That's how much we enjoyed each other's company, and decided that we had to do stuff together because we just got along so well and we were very aligned clinically.
Okay. Yeah. I love this. Okay. So Whitney, I'm going to give you a follow-up question to that. So when we have so many practitioners that have virtual practices, that get burnout, that struggle, how important was that actually having a face-to-face coffee date with a
transformative,
to stay excited about the work you're doing and to have new ideas? So yeah, share us what that was like from your perspective.
Well, I love having.
Did you autograph something for her?
I forgot to ask for that.
I think I burst that fan bubble very quickly. When she got to know me. For me, it was pretty transformative because even though I'm an introvert, I love being alone and I love working virtually. But as an entrepreneur, all of your hard days you experience on your own, and your victories you experience on your own. And yeah, I could go share them with my husband, but he doesn't get it, And so to have someone like Paula, that we both have, similar experiences as clinical advisors, like she said, we're very much aligned, and we just click, and we're both introverts too. So, for me, it was just to have someone that, one, I can trust them implicitly, and that we do bring complementary skills to the table, and we can share all of our struggles and all of our wins. There's just nothing more important than that. So even if we don't have anything to do specifically together, we're still kind of like constantly pinging each other and Zooming just for no reason, because we need our fix, and I think that's very sustaining.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I just thought that was an interesting piece to bring in, because as people are getting certified and starting to work with clients and learning and getting overwhelmed and wanting to do more courses and this. And sometimes they forget to have some of that connection with their colleague or to have some of that joy in their life as well. All right. So for the FDNs in the community who are watching and they're thinking about investing in advanced training, what's the one thing that tends to hold them back from going deeper? And what would you tell them?
That's a tough one. I think it's very individual.
Yeah.
Depends on the person as to what's holding them back. And honestly, I think that for most FDNs, it's, I don't know what to do, right? I don't know which courses to buy. And there's almost like everything's a shiny object. So it's more like trying to focus them in on what's most important for you, in terms of where you honestly see your blind spots, or where you are aware that you have some weaknesses, and also what's going to be most valuable to your clients.
Yeah. Yes. Very good. Paula, what would you say to those?
Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that. I think usually the things that I hear and see holding back someone might be, I have to budget this. So what should I spend money on first? And then secondly, especially if they don't have a particular niche in their practice, they're not sure which course might be the most valuable. They're all valuable, but what's going to be the most valuable for them?
And that leads right into my next question. So we've heard how the two of you collaborate very well together. You work well together, but you both have very separate niches. Not separate, they all work together, but we have distinct niches. And how important is it for that client? We were just alluding to this when they're picking an advanced course that they might have a niche or a specialty, not specialty, but something they're passionate about. So how important is it for them to kind of really hone in on that before they get into deeper advanced courses?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Niching is more, from my perspective, niching is more about marketing.
Okay.
Because when it comes down to it, I mean, Paula and I have different niches, but we still do basically the same thing. I'm running Dutches on people. She's running thyroid panels. I mean, so we're still doing the same areas of investigation, right? The same comprehensive lay of the land analysis. We're still doing all of that. I think where niching comes in is part of it is driven probably by an individual passion. For most FDNs, it's connected to their own personal health journey. Usually, that's why I focus where I'm focused. It's really came out of my own journey. But niching itself is really more of a marketing tool, just so you can clarify messaging and you know exactly who your audience is. Because if you try to, explain yourself to everyone, no one really seems to get the message, the clarity of the message. So niching is really about marketing in my brain.
Yeah, that makes sense. Paula, anything to add to that?
No, I agree. I think there's very few courses that you have to have a specific niche to really be interested or to find that course valuable. There are several. There's one especially on coaching skills and teaching emotional wellness by Dr. Lori Lees. That is awesome. Everyone can benefit from that. It doesn't matter your niche. It doesn't matter who you're working with. So I don't think you have to have that defined. People worry about it, but I don't know that it's really necessary.
Yeah. Very nice. I love it. And that's what I would tend to agree, Whitney. We kind of get our passion and what we resonate with, but that's when people come to me the same thing. I'm like, well, you're going to get a gut program. We're going to talk about your liver. I know that's not what you came for, but we're still going to talk about all the things. So
because they're connected.
Yeah, it is. We can't just talk about the thyroid, because we have to have good gut health and good liver health and good, all the things. We need to be sleeping and eating. Yes. I love that. All right. So some of the advanced courses give practitioners access to over 70 functional labs through the FDN's Medical Director Program. For a practitioner who has been working primarily with a handful of standard labs, how do you recommend they start expanding their lab literacy without feeling overwhelmed?
Well, what I usually recommend is that they run those labs on themselves.
Great idea.
Yeah. Don't experiment on a client.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Start with running labs on yourself and schedule clinical advising sessions, because that's how you learn to connect the dots between the lab data, the lived experience, and why does this data matter?
That's right. And the thing about, the advanced courses are essential. They are, and they're a wealth of information. But any coursework, that's theory, right? That's not practical application. So oftentimes people will take the advanced courses, they ingest the material, but then they still kind of feel like they don't know how to practically apply it. So clinical advising sessions really are these little mini mentorship sessions where it is all about practical application, about the client right in front of you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that for just a minute, because I want you to reiterate the importance of the clinical advisor sessions. So I'm brand new. I have run a few of the GI map tests, for example, on myself and my family, and I'm getting to know it. Now I'm going to have some clients. And so I've graduated, I'm ready to go. How important is it? And how often should I do these clinical advising sessions?
It's the most important thing, and you should do it as often as possible.
Absolutely.
Yes. It's an investment in your business.
It is.
100%.
Continued education. It really is.
It's a business expense.
Yes. You can write it off.
That's right. Yes.
So, and because everyone is unique, so let's say in my first year of practice, I've won 20 of these, or maybe 50 because I'm really successful, whichever, right? And how often are they the same, and how often are those lab tests different? Like you're learning something new about a new marker that's showing up, or some different pattern that you haven't seen before. There's some things that are always, you're like, yep, now I learned that one pretty quickly. That one's happening every single time. Then you're like, oh, I'm so glad I had this session, because I would never have picked up on that.
Yeah, and it's usually not really about what's showing up in the lab.
Okay.
It's about how it correlates back to the client. And patterns in labs, if you run enough and you get enough experience, you can get very proficient on just identifying the lab patterns. But that's in isolation, right? The patterns really start to become real when you're seeing the patterns that are showing up in the relationship between the labs and the client. That's what matters. Those are the patterns that matter. And that's where I think clinical advising sessions really shine, because what tends to happen all the time is we'll be talking about a lab, and then, I'll ask 5 or 7 questions about the client. It's like, I just veer right to the client, because I don't know how to really contextualize what I'm seeing in the lab if I feel like there's missing information about the client that needs to be clarified first before I know what this over here means. Right? So that's super important. Yeah,
that's brilliant. I think that we've circled back how many times to this with the critical thinking and linking it back to the actual relationship. This is pretty powerful stuff, ladies. All right. Now, both of you have had your own significant personal health journeys before becoming practitioners. How does that lived experience shape the way you teach advanced concepts, and how does it make you a better educator?
It can make us very passionate about certain topics. That is for sure.
Yes, it can. And for me, I think it makes me better at building rapport and trust with my clients, and sharing my authentic journey, right? So that they know, hey, I've been where you are. I've gotten out. I know the way out. We can do this together. And there's a similar sort of experience in a CA session with an FDN as well, for the same reason. It's like, I've been where you are. I've been in that space of feeling overwhelmed, or like you don't know enough, you're not good enough, and it's okay, Right. Spoiler alert, you're always going to feel that way. So get over it. Right? But that's not true. You do know enough. You know enough to help the person in front of you.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So thinking about that, when you think, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. If I'm a practitioner, I have a business, I'm seeing clients, and I know or I want to have continued education as a regular part of my business growth, right? How do you recommend these practitioners approach advanced training without it becoming another to-do list and another something on their already full plate, right? Because a lot of them are struggling all of the things, balancing with all of the things. And they're like, but wait, I want to have a little more. How do we balance that? How do we move forward?
Time blocking.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let's
Just like
talk
how
about
we teach our clients that when we're working on all of the diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation, we tell them, put it on a calendar. You have to schedule some of these self-care habits. It's the same thing when you are, I don't care how long you've been practicing. Whitney and I have both been doing this well over a decade, and I still block time on my schedule for my own education and learning, because you never stop. I don't care how experienced you are, how long you've been doing this, you never stop. So you have to make the time for it by literally putting it on your calendar.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And also don't take on too much too soon.
Right.
Don't buy 5 courses at once and then overwhelm yourself, right? Baby steps. Get the course that you're really passionate about, time block, so that you know when you're going to start it, when you're going to complete it, right? And just, baby step it. Just do a little bit all the time. Don't try and absorb too much at once.
Yeah, these are wonderful tips and wonderful reminders about always growing, but we don't have to grow all of it in one day.
Right.
All right. When you look at FDN practitioners who get the best results from the advanced courses, what separates them from the ones who go through the material but do not see the same clinical, impact in their clinical work or growth?
What separates them?
Mm-hmm.
I know it sounds like a broken record, but I think really having another pair of eyes, collaborating with other practitioners like clinical advisors, we're there for a reason. That kind of collaboration really matters. Because I think one thing that happens in a clinical advising session for the FDN is they get to relax. They feel safe, they're supported, right? So they relax. So they're just immediately more open to new ways of thinking, new information. And there's that trust between us and the FDN that's in the session with us. So, that to me, that's the difference. It's those FDNs who have really taken the time to invest in some mentorship with seasoned practitioners who can guide them and be another set of eyes on the cases that they're working with.
That's awesome. Paula, anything else to add there?
No, it just goes along with what Whitney said. In addition to the collaboration, it's just using what you've learned. You can take 5 courses, and if you never practice anything that you've learned in those courses, you're still not going to feel or become proficient in it. Right. So if you're interested in doing that course, cool, and then apply it, actually make it work. And again, with the clinical advising sessions, that's just super beneficial.
Yeah, I was just thinking, because just thinking of everything you've talked about with growing for the practice, becoming more educated, being, connected with the clinical advisors, with your colleagues and those kind of things. And then talking about the expense. How do we find it? I was just thinking, when I got first started, I was always trying to find a conference to go to because that was the only option there were. Yeah. And that required a hotel and a flight and the conference fees and the meals and all of those things. And so when you look at it like this, to your point, Paul, time block that, that time, and it's your conference at home, or maybe you get to go to the hotel somewhere else and have your conference, and your education, and do that with people around you that can support you, and then take advantage of that clinical advisor. I think that's just brilliant. Just have the way you shared that, just to become more confident and actually putting the knowledge into practice. Very cool. All right, looking ahead at where FDN Advanced is going, what are the most exciting things that you're looking forward to? Are there new courses, new topics, new directions, anything you're thinking about or moving forward?
Well, I'm really excited. I know Paula has created a couple of done for you courses.
Nice.
one on gut health. You've done one on hormones too, right, Paula?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was a complementary course to the advanced course, and then gut wellness is on its own. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm just started on a done for you thyroid course for people. I'm excited for that because that's what you know FDN struggle with too, is how do I educate my clients about all of this stuff, and they want to be able to not just do that in one-on-one sessions, but to have actual presentations, something that resembles a curriculum, right? So that they can really share these concepts. So I'm excited for those courses.
I think people will be very excited about this because the first thing you said was creating a course takes way more time than you think.
Yes, yes, it does.
So take advantage of these things can be really powerful to give yourself a break, learn from someone trusted, share that trusted information with your clients. They're going to benefit from it. You don't have to be stressed out. You know it's coming from a trusted source. That's wonderful. That's really exciting, Whitney, and Paula as well. That's awesome. Awesome, awesome. For the practitioners in the community who feel inspired after today's conversation, because we are so inspiring, right, ladies? Except for I wore the wrong color. Sorry. What is the one thing you want them to walk away with, and what is the first step you would tell them to take if they want to go deeper in their practice starting right now today? I'm inspired.
Paula, you got to take this one, Paula.
I'm listening to all of this. I know that I need to time block. I know I need to get some my footing. Then be excited about it. I'm going to talk to my clinical advisors. I'm going to learn. What do I do next? I really want to continue to grow.
I would say review the advanced course catalog in the FDN catalog and just see what speaks to you, what looks interesting. You know, you can click on every course in there, read exactly what's included in it, approximately how many hours it may take you to go through it. So that helps you with the time blocking, right? And just start doing it.
Love it. I love it. I love it. All right. This has been a great conversation today, and I want to make sure we get to audience questions. So thanks to everyone who's been posting questions. We'll get to as many as we can. And if you happen to be watching this as a replay, feel free to post your questions in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a live stream. All right. Jess, what's our first question we have coming in? Okay, here we go. For practitioners who are already certified through FDN and seeing clients, but feeling stuck or plateaued in their clinical results, what's the first advanced course you would recommend and why?
Oh, wow.
That's kind of a broad one. Because I'm not sure which clients they are, but.
Right.
Yeah.
The question would be, why do you feel stuck? Where are you stuck? Right? It's hard to answer that question without knowing where the stuckness is coming from.
I know. I'm just thinking, I'm just going to throw it off the cuff. For somebody who's what about blood chemistry? Would that be a good, basic foundational one? And maybe the thyroid that we talked about at the beginning, you know what I mean? If that's really what they're just looking for. Deeper foundation, maybe. Okay.
Possibly. I hate to answer it this way, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't think the first thing I would point someone to is just an advanced course, because that may or may not help. I would say do a strategy session with a clinical advisor to figure out what is the best plan, because we might recommend a certain course, but that's really the best place to start when you're stuck.
Right. Or the stuckness may be coming from some sort of misalignment in your practice and how you're implementing the way that people move through your program or your packages. It might be an obstacle that you're not seeing. So that's another reason to have a strategy session.
Thank you. Wonderful answers here. Okay, we have another one that just came in. When you are working with a complex case where there are labs pointing in multiple directions at once, how do the advanced courses teach practitioners to prioritize what to address first so clients actually start feeling better rather than feeling overwhelmed by the protocol?
That's a
lot.
Question. That's a lot. And I hate to do this, but I would say It really depends on what labs you're talking about and what different directions you're talking about. It's hard to say that there's like one particular course that could somehow provide the foundation that you need, right? Again, that would be a great reason for a strategy session to find out what do I need,
Yeah.
right? Because I'd have to know a little bit more about that problem.
Yeah. Yeah, Whitney, I think that's great. Thank you for bringing up the strategy session. And those would be with a clinical advisor as well. Is correct?
Yes.
Yes, they're just not lab focused. They're question focused. Yeah.
Which is brilliant, because we started this conversation really talking about having critical thinking and really understanding who we are working with, not just what their labs are telling us, but really bringing that in. And this, what I'm hearing both of you ladies say is, we have to remember who we are before we start asking these questions as well. Who are we? Why are we stuck? Where are these issues coming up? Is it our strategy? Is it our packages? Those kind of things. And maybe jumping into a new course might not be the answer, but I could actually talk to somebody qualified to help me strategize some plans. I love that.
It could be something as simple as maybe you're not gathering information from your clients that you should be gathering.
Yeah. Which helps fill all the multiple directions, right?
Yes.
Now we know which directions, how all of them are actually pointing to the same thing. That's brilliant. All right. Okay. Outside of FDN advanced courses, because we were talking about those today, what are the books, resources, or continuing education experiences that have had the biggest impact on how you both practice and teach?
Multiple.
Yeah.
I mean, mentorships, other certification courses that we've done, especially in particular niches. I've done a couple now, more around hormones and midlife women, but also like with the course that I'm currently working on for midlife women and cardiovascular health. I loved the book, The Great Cholesterol Myth. And when I was at practice, I had to read a book called The Heart Book by Dr. Jeffrey Dosh. And that's what got me so interested in defining the difference in like cardiovascular disease in women versus men, because women are just misdiagnosed or just kind of brushed off because we don't have typical symptoms, for example. But they're typical to women, they're just atypical to men. And our medical model is really based on male physiology. That was a very specific example, but I just wanted to lay that out because that's something that's made me very passionate about educating other FDN practitioners or any kind of practitioner about how to assess cardiovascular risk in women. It's completely different than in men.
That's great. So in that instance, this was just picking up a book you were kind of interested in, or it was part of a course. You're like, whoa, I actually really am excited to learn more about this. That's great. And it probably was a small investment to buy the book, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
You're like, I couldn't even put it down. And next thing I know, I'm creating a program, which is amazing. What about you, Whitney? What are some of the things that have had the biggest impact in your growth?
Probably the biggest impacts for me were a couple of certification courses that I've done. One on, I did the advanced blood chemistry with FDN, but then I took an even more like bigger comprehensive blood chemistry certification, which really provided a lot of insight around different patterns that show up in basic blood chemistry from a functional perspective. And that was really valuable. Because so many of my clients come with blood chemistry, right? So to just be able to dig more deeper into that. But then I also just finished a 2-year program with the Institute for Functional Medicine. Now that's just for licensed practitioners, but I would say that that's had a huge impact on me and the way I approach my practice.
Oh, I love that. It's really nice to hear both of you ladies talk about different avenues you've taken and how that's expanded your practice and expanded how you share with your clients and in creating courses to share with other practitioners. So thank you so much. We have one last question here. It says, if I have a course that I'm interested in sharing with FDN to bring to the community, what would be the next step for me as a practitioner to approach FDN and find out whether my course would be a good fit?
I forget who the direct contact is for that, but just FDN is super excited to have collaborations and build relationships, particularly within the FDN community. And there are, gosh, there's probably 8 or 10 FDNs I can think of who have developed courses, who created an affiliation with FDN, which is a great match because it works for everybody, right? Everybody wins, and FDN does a really great job at marketing any course that they're supporting. So I just say, contact the powers that be, and they'll be open to hearing what you have.
That's great. And I think that just brings up that whole point of collaboration and working together. You don't have to be an island out here and know everything on your own. Oh, ladies, this has been great today. I want to thank all of those who joined us and all of those who asked questions. If you're watching this as a replay, remember you can still post your questions in the comments below. Thank you again, Whitney and Paula, so much for joining us today. Where can people find out more about FDN, FDN courses, and how to work with either of you directly? I know, I just keep asking you really big questions. Okay, Paula, you're up.
All of the courses are on the FDN website. I'm not even sure exactly what the menu looks like, but I know that there is a menu for advanced courses and they're outlined very easily.
We'll get that posted and shared for you. Yes.
Good. And I can be found at paulareedwellness.com, and that is my handle on Facebook and Instagram as well.
And I'm WhitneyMorganNutrition.com, and that's everywhere as well.
Wonderful. Ladies, thank you so much for coming today and joining us, and thank you for the works you are doing, and go out and keep changing the world.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
You guys.